The Islanders earned their first win of the preseason in comeback fashion, and better yet, it was against the Rangers. We'll have our key takeaways and what it all means coming up next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Friday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today to talk a little Islanders hockey, and we have got a lot to discuss on today's show. The Islanders win their first game of the preseason, a big third period comeback over the Rangers. We'll have our key takeaways, talk about who shined, who was not so good, and what it all means as battles continue throughout training camp. We'll also have the latest injury and roster updates, and an Islander all-time great gets an overdue honor. All that plus our Islanders birthday of the day coming up on today's show. Got to start with the game. Islanders off the schneid. They are now 1-1-1 this preseason. They score a come-from-behind 5-4 win over the Rangers, getting 3 goals in the third period to come back. Islanders were up 2-0, and then were down basically 4-2, came back, tied it, and end up winning it with a little less than 4 minutes left on a goal by Kyle Palmieri. And look, in this game, you break down the roster. You didn't see, and we still haven't seen Ilya Sorokin play. I think the Islanders are kind of comfortable with Sorokin. They'll probably give him part of a game or 2 out of the last 3. But to sort of get him ready. But they want to see David Rittich. They want to see Marcus Hogberg because that's the battle for the second string goalie as long as Semyon Varlamov remains out. But you look up and down this roster, and there's only maybe 7 or 8 players who played last night who are likely to be on the opening night roster and on the ice. You had Kyle Palmieri, Emil Heineman, J.G. Pajot, Simon Holmstrom. You had Isaiah George. You had Adam Pelech, Ryan Polak. Then you have Isaiah George, who's kind of fighting, but probably not going to start the season with the big club. You had Cal Ritchie, who is also kind of in the same boat. You had Kyle McLean, who is probably going to make the team, but probably be a black ace and be one of the extra forwards up in the press box. So, that's 7, 8 guys who will probably be on the opening night, in the opening night lineup. So you take everything here with a grain of salt. And again, the Islanders did not play Ilya Sorokin. The Rangers did not play Igor Shesterkin. But I think the Rangers played a few more of their regulars than the Islanders did, and it was nice to see the comeback. Got to give a shout out to Gleb Veremyev, who scored 2 goals on 3 shots. He was a +2. And I got to say, the thing about Veremyev that I really appreciated was that both of his goals involved going to the net. I think if you added up the distance between where he last touched the puck and how far it was away from the goal line on both his goals, I doubt it would be more than 5.5 feet total. And that may be generous. It may be closer to 2.5 or 3 feet added up. But that's not a criticism. That, in my mind, is a good thing. There are still issues for this team. The Islanders' power play not giving us a lot. But again, no Matt Barzal, no Bo Horvat, no Tony DeAngelo, no Matthew Schaefer. I kind of would like to see more Matthew Schaefer, please. But, you know, overall, the power play looked kind of lifeless. Again, the Islanders give up 2 power play goals to the Rangers. So the special teams still need work. But again, I am not going to lose too much sleep over the power play when most of the top line power play guys were not playing. You know, you had Holmstrom and Pajot out there on the PK, so you would hope the PK would be a little bit better, but it wasn't. And, you know, that is a little bit of a concern. Let's put it that way. You want to see more on special teams, and hopefully the rest of training camp, the rest of the remaining 3 preseason games, we will see this team do more. Alex Jeffries, he had 1 really poor play, but he also had 2 assists. Cameron Berg had a goal, an assist, and was a +3, also had 4 penalty minutes. And I think Isaiah George looked pretty good out there. Adam Pelech also, by the way, had 2 helpers. So, you know, the first 40 minutes of this game, not ideal. Yeah, the Islanders led 2-0, but they were being badly outshot. But I like the way this team stuck with it, orchestrated the comeback in the third period, and ends up winning the game. Look, yeah, it's preseason. Yeah, in 2 weeks, no one is going to remember or care who won a preseason game. But you know what? You go into Madison Square Garden, you beat the New York Rangers. Yeah, it's preseason, but it helps. It's good for the fans. It's good for the players. Remember the last time the Islanders faced the Rangers? They got blown out late in the regular season. I think that loss may have actually been a big reason that Lou Lamoriello did not end up staying with the New York Islanders after the season. Not that that game alone was his demise, but just the way they were lifeless and just looked so non-competitive in that game certainly hurt the Islanders' outlook from ownership and from the fans. And I think the fans kind of heard the negativity. The owners heard the negativity coming from the fans. But some good things to look at in this game. Some things definitely that need to be worked on and improved upon. Special teams is still a big concern for the Islanders. And again, especially on the power play, less concerned, but I wanted to at least see structure. I wanted to at least see improved movement. I don't need to see goals necessarily, especially without most of the top players, you know, on the power play unit in the lineup. But I want to see reasons to think that things are improving. I want to see hard work. I want to see movement without the puck and movement of the puck. I want to see improvement. And so far, through 3 preseason games, I'm not seeing enough of it. Again, not losing sleep over it yet, but as I've said, and everydayers will recall, if special teams, both the power play and the penalty kill, don't get better, this could be a very long season again for the Islanders. You're not making the playoffs again if your power play and your penalty kill are in the bottom 5 of the league. The other thing is the goalies. David Rittich didn't play terribly, but didn't look great. And, you know, he gave up 4 goals on 24 shots. That's an .833 save percentage. Marcus Hogberg, on the other hand, wasn't tested much. The Islanders kind of outplayed the Rangers in that third period. Only faced 5 shots, but turned them all aside. And it'll be interesting to see tomorrow night who gets the start and who, assuming Sorokin sees his first action of the preseason tomorrow against the Devils. Hopefully, it'll be interesting to see, rather, who Patrick Roy decides to make the backup goalie. Right now, over the course of camp, I think Rittich has outplayed Hogberg for the most part. But Hogberg, I think, earned a few points at least with his performance in the third period against the Rangers last night. So always nice to get the dub. Not that, again, preseason, in one ear out the other, right? It's nice, but it's not life or death. But believe it or not, we're like 2 weeks away from the start of games that count. And a lot of moves are going to be made between now and then. So we would look forward to that. We have got more to get to on today's show. Some more injury updates coming up. And one of them, can't say it's a big surprise. We'll also talk about an overdue honor to a great Islander. And for our Islanders' birthday of the day, a player who was only 5'9", but boy, was he tough, and he was a big part of the Islanders from their first season all the way through their second Stanley Cup win. Let's see if you can guess who this player is, and we'll talk about his impact on the team. All that and more next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Again, that's $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Do you like player props? They've got them. You want to build a same-game parlay to increase your odds? You could do that, or you could even jump in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your favorite team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com, check it out today. So, injury news. Thursday kind of started with injury news, and we never like injury news. But the Islanders made 2 announcements on Thursday morning. One, Dylan Kuefler out with an upper body injury. He took a hit against the Devils on Tuesday. And look, nobody expects Kuefler to make the NHL roster. Everybody expects him to be down in Bridgeport. He played 16 games for Bridgeport last year, had 2 assists. But Dylan Kuefler, he took a hard hit against the Devils. And the Islanders' announcement was that there will be a clearer timeline when the swelling reduces. So I would say it's likely we've seen the last of Daylan Kuefler in a preseason game, maybe the last of him in camp, depending on how long it takes for the swelling to go down, and then how significant the injury actually turns out to be. But, unfortunate that he did not get a chance to play more this preseason or in camp. But the other injury that the Islanders announced had to do with a player who is expected to be on this roster, and that is Anthony Duclair, who is officially now listed as day-to-day with an upper body injury. Now, Patrick Roy, telling reporters that he hoped Duclair can get in at least one more preseason game out of the 3 remaining after last night's game against the Rangers. And Wah made it clear this injury is not related to the groin injury that really decimated Duclair's season a year ago. Obviously, it shouldn't be if the injury that they're mentioning is an upper body injury, and obviously the groin not part of the upper body. Wah basically saying, I think it'll be good for him to play some preseason games. There's no doubt about that, but we want him to be healthy, and we respect that. So, first of all, good that everybody so far seems to be on the same page regarding the injury, and hopefully it's nothing serious. Duclair hopefully will be back and be ready for the start of the regular season. And again, like almost every NHL team, the Islanders not going to get any more specific than upper body injury, lower body injury. And if it's day-to-day and they're saying he'll get into a preseason game, that means hopefully this injury is a week or less. And we'll keep an eye on Anthony Duclair. No new updates on Anders Lee, who is still out 1 to 2 weeks with an upper body injury. Nothing new on Maxim Siplikov, who was out on a maintenance day Wednesday. Thursday, he skated on his own, as did Lee. But again, no updates per se about any change in timetable or them being ready to return. And look, I think at this point, we are getting close to being able to figure out where the Islanders are going to be as far as this lineup is concerned. And, it's not etched in stone, obviously, but, looks like Matthew Schaefer is going to make the team. I wish he would have played last night against the Rangers, but they opted not to do that. You'll probably see Romanov, D'Angelo, Pelech, Polak, Mayfield, Schaefer, with Boqvist as your seventh defenseman. If that is kind of my impression as of right now. You've got a top line of Horvat, Shabanov, and Palmieri. You got, Horvat, Shabanov, and Drouin. You've got a second line of Barzy, Lee, and Palmieri. You then got a third line of Duclair, Pajot, and Holmstrom. And as of right now, it looks like Heineman, Siplikov, and Cizikas, although you still have Kyle McLean, Cal Ritchie, and Mark Gatcomb battling for those extra forward spots or even a spot possibly on the fourth line. And then, you look at the goaltending situation. Looks like Rittich is ahead of Hogberg as of right now. Sorokin is the starter, and we're more or less waiting to see when or even if Semyon Varlamov will be ready to return. Backup goalie, definitely an issue right now for the New York Islanders, and it will remain an issue until either Rittich or Hogberg, or it could be neither of them, manage to step up and claim that spot and prove that they can consistently deliver. Again, the Islanders do have 15 back-to-backs this season. You're going to need a good performance by your backup goalie if you hope to be successful in any way this season. And again, especially this year where most people are not picking the Islanders to make the playoffs, where you would need a lot of things to go right to make the playoffs this year. It is not a good thing to overuse Ilya Sorokin to try to chase one of those wild card spots and play him 60, 65, games. think long term. That's what is more important for this team right now. And hopefully we get a reliable backup who can give the Islanders, 30 games to start, a couple of relief appearances. And look, I'll go as far as this. If the Islanders prefer to give both Rittich and Hogberg opportunities during the regular season to be the backup, assuming both stay healthy and Varley isn't ready, I'm okay with that too. If they each get 15 starts this year, depending on who has the hot hand, we'll see. We'll see. But don't overuse Ilya Sorokin. It hasn't worked for the Islanders yet, and I hope we don't see it again this year. We've got more to get to on today's show. I am very, very happy about this next piece of news. An all-time great Islander who is finally going to be inducted into the Islanders Hall of Fame, a long overdue honor. We'll talk about that player, his legacy, and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. So the New York Islanders made it official on Thursday, a very overdue announcement. Pat LaFontaine, one of the greatest Islanders post-dynasty era. And yeah, his rookie year was the year the Islanders went to the Cup final in 1984 and lost to the Edmonton Oilers. But he is finally going to be inducted into the New York Islanders Hall of Fame. That night will be December 13th. It'll be the Islanders hosting the Tampa Bay Lightning, and there will be the on-ice ceremony making Pat LaFontaine the 17th inductee into the Islanders Hall of Fame. LaFontaine said, "I'm very fortunate and honored. When Matthew Darche called me, I could not have been more excited. It's very meaningful and very humbling that a lot of the guys I was fortunate enough to play with are in the New York Islanders Hall of Fame. It's just a tremendous honor. It's a very meaningful time in my life. It's exciting for the family. I live on Long Island. My wife is from here, and it's where I started my career. It's just a tremendous honor." LaFontaine played 530 games with the Islanders and had 566 points. That's more than a point a game. He had 287 goals and 279 assists in 530 games. He had 4 40-goal seasons and still ranks 7th overall in Islanders history in goals, 9th overall in points. He is in the Hockey Hall of Fame and played for Team USA in the 1984 Olympics. So this is a long overdue honor. And unfortunately, there was a big fallout between ownership, not this ownership group, but previous ownership groups, and Pat LaFontaine. I think that more than anything has kept him out of the Islanders Hall of Fame. And so when you correct a mistake, when you heal the wounds caused by a petty squabble that dates back way too many years, that's a good thing. And I don't think there's any doubt that Pat LaFontaine has earned a spot in the New York Islanders Hall of Fame. So congratulations to Pat LaFontaine. He is heading to the Islanders Hall of Fame. I'm looking forward very much to that induction ceremony, and I'm sure the Islanders will do a good job. And I'll take it a step further. I hope, sincerely, that we will now see more of Pat LaFontaine at alumni events, at, he has a great charity that he's involved with. I'd like to see the Islanders get involved with that. And hopefully, fences will be completely mended. And from here on in, Pat LaFontaine is once again part of the New York Islanders family. Now, that being said, the next guy I want to see, the next former player I want to see in the Islanders Hall of Fame is goaltender Glenn Chico Resch. Chico was such a huge part of the Islanders from the mid-70s. He joined the team briefly in their second season. By 74, 75, he was a big part of the team. He was the goalie who led them to the 75 playoff run, more than Billy Smith. And, still holds for now the Islanders' all-time shutout lead. I want to see Chico Resch rightfully inducted into the Islanders Hall of Fame. So great that the Islanders are honoring Pat LaFontaine. He deserves it. Let's get Chico in next. He deserves it as well. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And today is the 73rd birthday of former Islanders winger Garry Howatt. The Glendon, Alberta native, only 5'9", 170 pounds, and yet twice with the Islanders and three times with the Islanders and four times in his career, went over 200 penalty minutes in a season. Originally a 10th round pick of the Islanders in the 1972 draft, their first ever year. Played 8 games for the Islanders that year. Wasn't a goon. This guy scored 21 goals for the Islanders in 75, 76, had 48 points in 74, 75. Stayed with the Islanders for their first 2 Stanley Cup seasons and then went on to play for the Whalers and the Devils before hanging up his skates. Howatt played in 720 NHL games, had 112 goals, 268 points, and 1,836 penalty minutes. Add 12 goals and 26 points in 87 playoff games, all of them with the New York Islanders. He was a big part of the Islanders teams of the mid to late 70s. And if you saw him play, you appreciated the way he defended his teammates, scored the odd goal, and dug for pucks in the corners. He was the kind of guy that fans just loved. One of his best games as an Islander, how about March 16th, 1977, the Islanders visiting Chicago Stadium to take on the Blackhawks. 2 Hall of Fame goalies in this one, Billy Smith and Tony Esposito. And in this game, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Garry Howatt opens the scoring a little less than 5.5 minutes in. Jean Potvin and Andre St. Laurent with the assists. It's 1-0 Islanders. After one period, it's 3-0 Islanders. But in the third, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Garry Howatt scores his 12th of the year, second of the game. Dave Lewis and Jean Potvin with the assists. And then on the power play with Randy Holt in the box for tripping, Howatt scores his 13th of the year, his third of the game, third career hat trick too. Andre St. Laurent, the only assist. Islanders blank the Blackhawks 5-0. Billy Smith with a 28 save shutout. Garry Howatt, 3 goals. He's a +2. He scored the game winner, and he scored on all 3 of his shots on goal. So Le Petit Tigre, or the Petite Tiger, Garry Howatt, is our Islanders' birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There is no off-season. We're bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. If you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR vs NYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I'm live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Everydayers, we are back on Monday. We'll have our key takeaways from Friday's preseason game against the Devils, so looking forward to that. We'll also have any roster moves, injury updates, and any Islanders news, notes, and happenings. So make sure you join us for that. Until then, have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.